Alrighty, we are back for episode number 4 with one of the bigger transfers. I guess we've had plenty of transfers, and they're all kind of big in their own way. Mike Woods, this is the one we're going to cover him about. If you hadn't seen the previous week, we covered Eric Gray, who obviously could be a very big contributor for the Sooners. If you hadn't seen that, definitely go check that out. But today we've got Jose, and then we've got Jerry. Jerry, another guest, because Brandon is a little busy for us tonight. And we thought we'd bring Jerry on to bring in some insight on Mike Woods and some of his opinions on him. So obviously, he's a wide receiver, about 6'1", 200 pounds, give or take. He's from Magnolia, Texas, out of Magnolia High School. Um, he played a couple years in high school on the varsity team, had about 3,000 receiving yards, 155 catches, and he had 44 total touchdowns. So a star in high school. Any high school in Texas is typically a pretty decent sized program relative to the other high schools around the country. He chose Arkansas, obviously, out of high school. He has consistently been getting better as far as stat numbers go through his first 3 years there. Um, Granted, that program has been in some turmoil since Bobby Petrino left, and some changes in coaching and player turnover quite a bit. And he had Felipe Franks, who arguably would probably be his best quarterback that he's had to date, and he had his best year. He had about 620 yards and 5 touchdowns. And he could arguably, I would argue that Arkansas was going to have the best returning duo of receivers in the SEC with Treylon Burks. But obviously things have changed, and he's coming over to the Sooners. He had other offers outside of Arkansas, like SMU, Iowa State, Minnesota, Texas Tech, but OU did not offer out of high school. But things happen, and the Sooners had a void, and with what's his name, Trajan Bridges leaving, it definitely, the depth has been thinned out, and with some injury concerns with Hazelwood and other players like that, he definitely has a role and is filling a void for the Sooners. So with that, I'll pass it on to Jerry if he wants to take a first stab what he thinks about the transfer and what we can expect from him this year.
I think he's a solid receiver. He's 6'1", he's big. I've been reading on him. He said he's a deep threat, we're going downfield. I don't think he'll do anything insane for us to be our number one or anything, just a solid third or fourth option for Spencer. I think Marvin's obviously going to be our star. He's just going to do what he can to help the team, get open, do his job. Nothing insane, though, from him.
Yeah. Jose, what do you think?
Yeah, definitely similar to Jerry, deep threat guy. Probably last Sooner receiver like that, I guess we could potentially compare him to, is maybe more of a DD Westbrook. Probably not the same kind of production, but it's just going to be he's going to run the 9 every time. And if he's not, he's going to run a deep post. He's going to be a guy that probably is going to use maybe similar like the Kansas City Chiefs use the Tyreek Hill for most of the game. He's kind of just a distraction because the team knows he's fast, and people are going to need to cover him, because if he's on one-on-one coverage, speed kills in football, and you don't want him getting over the top of your safety.
Yeah, definitely, and definitely Spencer Rattler is the best quarterback he's played with to date, and there's no reason why he can't have the best year of his career with Spencer. Throwing it deep to him. Obviously, he's a great deep ball thrower. And then you've got Marvin Mims, and then you've got Stogner that's going to be running down the middle of the field. I mean, he's going to be so open that there's no reason why he can't have quite a few yards. And I think it just provides a lot of insurance and contingency for Oklahoma to get him. But I just find that it was interesting how he had his spring game, and all of a sudden, everything seemed to be going well, and then he entered in the transfer portal, and I wonder if something happened with some coaches leaving. I know his wide receivers coach had left not too long ago to go coach at another school, And I wonder if that played a role, and he just saw an opportunity for the Sooners and hopped on it. Do you have any predictions on maybe some stats that he's going to put up this year? We could do like the over under. I could say over under. Let's do 850 yards. Jerry, what are you going to do? Are you going to take the over or the under on that?
I mean, like, I feel like that could go both ways. He's been going up, like, if you look at it, he's like 200 yards, 400 yards, 600 yards last year. Been going up like 200-ish yards every year. I just see him. He's not going to be our main star, so I'd literally see him at the 850 mark. So I could very easily say both ways, but I'm going to just say over. If I had to bet, I'd go over.
Jose, what do you think?
I'm going to take the under just because I think that he's going to be overshadowed by Mims. Potentially, I mean, if Hazelwood stays healthy, I think he's going to be the more surefire number 2, while Woods kind of just comes in, sporadically throughout the game. They might even be subbing between him and Super Mario. We'll see like how that works out. But I think the depth at the receiver position is, I mean, it's pretty good. They've got a lot. They have Mario Williams coming in, so and Woods, so it's going to be tough. Definitely going to be a competition. So he'll definitely explode a couple games. He might even have a 200-yard game. With the talent he has around him, he might get to just absolutely destroy it in one of the first games of the season when it's kind of more of an exhibition for Oklahoma. So yeah, I think he'll be shy. He'll probably be at like 750, 800, but just it's not like 850 is an impossible thing to see him do. Like Jerry said, it's very, very easily he could just have a few explosive games to get him over that.
That's where I see him at 850.
Yeah. And, so you think of around 800 or 700, 800 for him. And then I would imagine Mims is going to be over 1,000. Hazelwood, in theory, if he can stay healthy, I would like to think that he could be 1,000-yard receiver. Stogner could be 500 to 700 yards. Also, staying healthy is going to be the key with him. At the end of the day, there's so many mouths to feed. You can't, not everyone can be the superstar. And it's more of just kind of a team contribution. So as far as touchdowns go, what do you think? I'm going to set it at 6. Jose, what do you think? Over, under on that?
I'll go over 6. I think he's definitely going to be our second leading receiver with touchdowns. I think Marvin Mims and Spencer Rattler have too good of a connection. I think last year Marvin led the country in receiving touchdowns, and I don't see that going down. They have another offseason, another year of getting chemistry between him and Spence. So, yeah, I think over 6 is fair. I'd probably get it around the 8 or 9 range.
For sure. Jerry, what do you think?
I'm probably going to take the under. I just see him, he'll hit a big play to put us in the red zone. Then I see Marvin and Stogner being the red zone threats. I bet Marvin leads our team in touchdowns, and then Stogner just uses the big body. So I don't know if Mike Woods is a big red zone threat, so I'd probably take the under.
Yeah. For the yards, I think it's going to be over. And I think I might take the under on the touchdowns. I think he's going to be at 4 or 5. It might be more the deep threat. And then the Sooners look for more of Hazelwood and Stogner, and then running. Obviously, they've got a two-headed monster and run, and, in the backfield. So there's just going to be so many mouths to feed that, I don't know, it's going to be tough. But, I'd be happy, obviously, if he scored more, and, he should have the best year of his career. I think he's going to have more yards than he has ever, and touchdowns might be a little more of a struggle. But he could very well be 1,000-yard receiver, 7, 8 touchdowns. It just depends on where he's going to fit. And he's also, I just saw a tweet from him that he just moved to Norman within the last week or so. So he is a little bit behind as far as the playbook and getting familiar with the team. And so he could be behind the 8 ball in that sense. And, it just depends on what summer ball looks like. So, no, I mean, I think he's going to contribute. Do you guys have anything else to add to it, or any hot takes, any bold predictions, anything like that on Mike Woods?
I think it's just unfortunate for him. He kind of came in the point of Oklahoma's like wide receiving group that he probably won't get the same exposure. Like, I mean, we've seen like CD And he came in and he was kind of number 2 or 3 for a year, and then he got to be the number 1. The same thing happened to Dede and Sterling whenever he was at OU. But Mike is coming in when we have Marvin Mims, and like we said, he led the country in touchdowns last year. So it's hard to see him and Spencer not do the same thing again. You got Mario Williams coming in, Jane Hazelwood comes back, Theo Weiss is still around, so like he's kind of coming in at a point where he can definitely be the number 1 receiver, but it's a big uphill battle to get to that position.
Do you know how
Yeah.
many years he's left?
2, I think.
Yeah, 2 years. Yeah,
because of the COVID year.
Yeah, which is just crazy to think about some of these players that have 5-6 years that they're going to be able to play college because of that. Yeah, no, I think, but he also knowingly transferred in, so he knew that nothing was a shock to him. Obviously the Sooners thought that they had a need, and obviously thought he was worthy of a scholarship. So they must have some big plans for him, or at least be able to be a contributor. So definitely. We'll have to see. But he could be one of those guys where he comes in and transfers, and he might have 500 yards. He might not just fit, or he could come in with 1,000 plus. I think he's going to be closer to 1,000 than 500, but I guess we'll see. It's just different. I forget the UCLA guy that came in, Theo Howard. I know he dealt with some injuries, but there were some high expectations for him, and he just didn't really pan out. So you just never know with the transfers. Do what?
I can see him being our specialist, our kick returner, department returner this year.
Yeah. As we've been talking, I've kind of just convinced myself that Mike Woods might not even play next year.
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
Because of the sheer talent and how young those guys are in the room with him. Like he'll be definitely a good leader, and he'll play in the exhibition games. I just don't see him playing much once we get to conference play and deep into the season.
Yeah. Yeah. So no, I think that's all I've got. Make sure to check out on previous Who Dat episodes. Obviously, we've got 3 others, and be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and just keep engaging with us, and we'll be sure to reach out back to you. So thanks, guys.